After leaving the house, the property there, the Jeff's property, from being turned in, I went home. Warren had asked me to marry him, and he had told me, "You need to go pray for a testimony in this marriage. You need to know that this is what God wants for us." And I spent the rest of the night and into the morning trying to understand it, trying to understand why I felt like I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be excited. I wanted to be this blushing bride. And I suddenly felt so shy and so small and so lost. And the night was hard. The night was long. I ended up finishing my wedding dress through the night. And the next morning was morning class. I was a school teacher at a small academy across town. At that time, the schools were not meshed together, and there were a lot of private schools. I taught 5th grade, even though I do not have a teaching license. Yes, I taught 5th grade. So part of my job was to get my siblings to morning class to seminary. And Warren did the seminaries. Warren was the teacher at the seminaries. I had to drive to 3 houses, pick up 8 kids, and take them to seminary every morning and then get them to school. I was driving and got stuck in a little bit of traffic. It was rush hour in the morning. When I got to the meeting, I was late. I was probably 3 minutes late. He had already started talking. Warren had already started to talk. And he made eye contact with me when I came in. Then I sat down quickly. I couldn't tell any of my family. I couldn't tell my siblings. All that my younger brothers and sisters knew was, and not all of them, just the 4 next to me and my sister in age, knew that we were getting married, but they didn't know any of the details. They didn't know who we were marrying. They didn't know anything. And we had to keep it very secret. I was 17. My sister was 17. The laws were passed about underage marriages. And it was just so hush, so guarded. And we got done with seminary, and he looked at me from like across the meeting house, but the meeting house is big. It seated about 3,500 people. I was about a third way back in the room, and he looked down across the meeting house at me, and he said, "Don't be late." And I heard him say that, and I knew what he was talking about. And I went home, I told my parents, and I was like, this is happening. I'm getting married. This is exciting, right? And butterflies started to kick in, and I started to realize the good things that could come from this. In my mind, I was going into a family where there were a lot of other ladies, and I had, for the most part, a really great relationship with my siblings, my sisters, more especially, but I had a healthy friendship relationship with my sisters and my siblings. And I thought it would be similar, but we headed out at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday. It was a regular Friday for everyone else. We drove to a secret place in Nevada, a hot springs, where they were performing all of the underage marriages. And we were like hurried into a hotel room, and I had found out that Warren's two daughters, Rachel and Becky, were going to be marrying some men that I knew at the same time. And I knew that they didn't want to get married, these girls. At least that's what the high school girls would say that would talk to me, that knew them. We went into this room and we waited for 2 hours. And Ada and I my sister and I were sitting there and just waiting for them to come get us. And finally, Warren opened the door and he says, "Come on." And we all got up, we followed him into a room that had about, I want to say an exact number. I believe that aside from Uncle Rulin, his father, being there, and two of Uncle Rulin's wives, and these two men that Warren's daughters married, and Warren's daughters were there, and Warren's daughters' mothers were there. So two of my future sister wives were there, his two first wives. And we sat down. They had me sit next to him first, and we got married. Uncle Rulin performed the ceremony. At the time, the only person that performed weddings was Warren, unless it was for Warren, and then Uncle Rulin performed those weddings up until this time. So, and he had to be prompted. Uncle Rulin, again, he was 92 years old. And even though he had said the wedding vows over and over, probably thousands of times, he had to be prompted what to say to us. And then, do you take this man for time and all eternity and give yourself unto him as unto the Lord? And I did. I right then gave all of myself to him. I had given everything I had to my dad. I was very close to my dad. And I felt like that I was going to be okay. Like, I felt this confidence that if what Warren says is true, then if you're close to your father, you're going to be close to your husband. After the ceremony, everyone ate lunch. we went through this buffet line. We sat down. Warren had us sit by his two first wives, and we ate with them. And then my parents left, and we rode home with the two wives. His daughters were now married, and they rode home with their husbands. And it was a very long, quiet ride. Very quiet. I looked over at my sister a lot, and she was like beaming and happy. And I just felt so out of place and so I never imagined that I would marry Warren Jeffs. I never played it out in my mind. I know that thousands of girls did. I remember girls in high school practicing writing their names, so-and-so Jeffs. I one time wrote it out, and I was like, that is the weirdest thing. But it wasn't Warren I was thinking about. I really honestly thought that if I was going to marry a Jeffs, I was going to end up marrying Uncle Reuben. He had a lot of younger women. And I loved him as a person. And I felt that he loved me as a person. But I'm grateful that I didn't. So when we got to the big house,